Hello, everyone. Good morning. Mad Dog here. I hope that you all have had a very good week. My week's been all right. Not been a little more stressful than I would have liked, but I'm not going to go into that 100% here. It's just been one of those weeks that's been kind of short, but also kind of long. Um, anyway, didn't have a lot I wanted to talk about this week. I did finish reading for the second time. I finished reading Leviathan Wakes, the first book in the Expanse series. Did want to share some thoughts about that and the Expanse as a whole. Um, After the second read was just as much fun as the first time I read it. It is a little derivative of prior uh, books of its type, like The Stars My Destination by Alfred Bester, which was written back in the 1950s, uh, I think 50s. But it's not as derivative of those kinds of books as I originally thought it was. So I have to kind of revise my original thought. It is a very enjoyable book from start to finish. Very, very fast paced. The characters are probably the characters and the setting in which they are in are probably the two best things about the whole series. Um, Basically, the setting for the Expanse series, at least the first few books, it's set in the solar system, a couple of hundred years from now. We have colonized all of the inner planets have been colonized. Earth, Mars. We tried Venus, didn't work too well in Venus, but Earth, Mars is fully colonized and is actually an independent republic, the Martian Congressional Republic, which I know that probably sounds like that they're very democratic. They're not. They are democratic, and yet they are also very repressive. But they're very warlike. They're from Mars, of course they're going to be warlike. But we've said Mars is fully colonized, is an independent republic, is at tension with Earth for over 100 years, uh, over different things. Uh, the asteroid belt has been settled by another group of people. They're still human, but they're called Belters, and these are people, most of them, who have never spent any time in a proper gravity well, like a planetary gravity well. So they have lived most of their lives in a low G environment. Their physiology has changed because of that. They speak a language that is, or they speak a Creole language, which is a language that's made up of bits and pieces of a lot of different other languages. That's very hard for people that don't live in the belt to understand. Um, but they're their own culture. We've also settled moons of Jupiter, moons of Saturn, and further out, but we've not gone any further than the solar system because faster than light travel is not a thing. We can travel from planet to planet in a matter of days or months, weeks or months, but we can't go beyond this. I mean, we could go beyond the solar system, but it's not. It's still going to take years for us to get to another star. Um, so that's the basic setup. The political tensions, of course. There's the tension between Earth and Mars. There's the tension between Earth, Mars, and the Belt. The Belt want to be totally independent. Earth and Mars have exploited the Belt for generations. The people of the Belt are pretty much the white trash of the solar system, or the lower class. But they're trying their hardest to become independent, to become stronger. There are some elements. There is an organization in the belt called the OPA, or the Outer Planets Alliance. The Outer Planets Alliance even has factions within itself, though. Some of them we would classify today as terrorists, and they are classified the same way in the series. But there are others, particularly those led by one of the characters. His name is Fred Johnson, which are more level-headed. They want peace because those people believe that humanity is better united than with the belt being totally independent of the others. Um, but that's the basic kind of political setup. Milieu and the characters are excellent. You've got the main viewpoint characters for the first book, Leviathan Wakes, are James Holden and Josephus Miller. James Holden is the executive officer. As the book opens, he's the executive officer on a water hauler, a ship that basically goes out to the moons or the rings of Saturn, hauls in chunks of ice for water. They brings them back. Those chunks of ice can then be turned into water for Belter stations. Um, Holden is an idealist as the book opens. It gets him in a lot of trouble throughout the series. He's always wanted to do the right thing, and sometimes at the expense of doing the smart thing, which causes a lot of problems, especially in the first couple of books. But he's an excellent character, a lot of fun to read, and his character growth is fun to watch. Him learning the way things really work, and making the way things really work, or making the way he thinks the things should work with the way things really work, is kind of fun to watch too. His interactions with the other characters of the Rocinante crew, that's his ship, which I could tell you how he gets that ship. If you've seen the TV series, you know how he gets that ship. But if you've not seen the TV series or read the books, I'm not going to go into spoilers with that. Um, the other characters in his crew, his relationships with them are excellent. They're really a family. If you're a fan of Firefly, the TV show Firefly, there is a heavy influence in his relationship with the other members of his crew. Holden's relationship with the members of his crew. There's a heavy influence from Firefly on that. And I think you would really enjoy it. The other character that I mentioned, Miller, Josephus Miller, he is a cop on Ceres, which is, of course, the largest asteroid in the solar system. So he's a belter, but he's a different kind of belter. Like I said, he's a cop, very jaded, but he's a good cop. He's got a good, sharp mind. He's good at solving things and investigating things, which comes into play later on in the series when he is recruited, or his image and personality are recruited by an alien device, which I'm not going to go into a whole lot here, but it's a big MacGuffin that basically is throughout the whole series of The Expanse. This MacGuffin called the protomolecule uh, is really what drives a lot of what's going on. And Miller's personality and image eventually become an agent of the protomolecule. That doesn't necessarily mean he's bad. He's not. Even then, he's not. But he's a cop. He's an ex-cop, or he becomes an ex-cop. Um, but he's very jaded, very cynical. But over the course of the first book, some things happen that kind of turn that on its head for him. And mainly, he falls in love with someone, but that he's trying to kidnap. Uh, that he never actually really gets to meet in the flesh, except at the very end of the book. And when I say meet in the flesh, there's some complicated things going on with that, but I'm not going to go into that either. Read the book, watch the TV series, you'll know what I'm talking about. Um, but that's basically what happens in the first book. As the political setup, the characters, like I said, are excellent. The setting, the background details for the setting, the world building is incredibly well done. Um, the characters are excellent. The story is a fun read too. Like I said, it's pretty action packed. The first book, lots of things are happening all the time. There's a couple of slower parts, but even those parts are fun to read. But the action parts go by really fast, and there's lots of fun stuff going on in there. And it's violent, but why wouldn't it be? It's action packed. Action movies, action stories are violent stories. But it's good science fiction too. There's some good science fiction ideas at play, and that continues on throughout the whole series. I've read the first two books. I've seen the first four seasons of the TV show and read the first two books. Um, it's definitely something that I think if you're a science fiction fan, if you like to read science fiction, if you like space opera, which is this is very definitely falls into that category. Um, I think it's a series that you should read. Uh, and I think the TV series is worth a watch if you don't want to read the books. It's currently on Amazon, um, all four seasons, and they're working on season 5 right now. Um, in my opinion, it's a science fiction version of Game of Thrones. It may not be quite as complex as Game of Thrones was at times, but its story is certainly as rich, and the characters are as rich. It's just not as Byzantine in plot at times. I mean, there are other times when there's less things going on that nobody's saying exactly what it is, but it's worth a read. It's worth a watch. Definitely recommend it. And again, the series is called The Expanse. The first book in the series is called Leviathan Wakes, which is the one I just finished reading this week for the second time. The author of the series is listed as James S.A. Corey. Uh, that's a pseudonym for two different people. The books are written by two different authors, Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank. Uh, Ty Frank is actually George R. R. Martin, the guy that wrote uh, the books that Game of Thrones is based on. Ty Frank is actually his assistant, which I find interesting. They both know George R. R. Martin on a personal level and professional level. But the first book, like I said, is Leviathan Wakes. The second book, which I have also read, but I'm going to read again because I want to read all. There's 8 books. The second book is called Caliban's War. The third book is called Abaddon's Gate. The fourth book is called Cibola Burn. And on from there. I don't know the names off the top of my head. I could bring them off the top of my head. I could bring it up on my computer, but I'm not going to right now. But it's definitely worth a read. And I'm going to read the whole series. There's 8 books, with the 9th supposed to be out this year. And that's supposed to be the end of it, at least based on what I've heard. There could be more books after that. There was originally only supposed to be 3 books in the series, and it's now gone to 8 books. And everybody says it's still just as good in book 8 as it was in book 2, book 1, whatever. But it's a series I definitely recommend. To look it up, and so that's what I had to say about that today. Didn't have a whole lot else to say. I should be getting my new glasses next week. They're going to look different than my last glasses, and they're going to be bifocals, so I have to get used to that, but it was the cheaper option. So anyway, folks, this is Mad Dog signing off for now. I hope you have a good rest of your week, a good rest, and a good weekend. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Again, this is Mad Dog signing off. Goodbye for now.